actually just putting this on because when you bow it falls off. So I'll just hold it.
Sorry.
So this chanting will be recorded today. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Maybe we're running out of money and they can hopefully win a Grammy. Is that right, Grammy? Yeah. Hey, oh, that's good. What should the group be called? Ajahn Brahm and the... Sorry? And the losers. Yes, great. Okay, because it's being recorded, see if we can do this really properly. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yo so bhagava alahang sama sambuddho Suakato yena bhagavata dhammo supatipano yassa bhagavato sawaka sangho Dhammayang bhagavantang sadhammang sasangang ime hisakare hiyatarahang aropite hiabhipujayama sadhuno bante Bhagava suchira pariniputopi Pachima janata nukampamanasa ime sakare dugata panakarabhute patigan hatu amhakang dikhavatang hitaya sukhaya alahang sama sambuddho bhagava buddhang bhagavantang abhivademi Suakato bhagavata dhammo dhammang namasami Supatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho sanghang namami Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa iti piso bhagava arahang sama sambuddho vijacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sarati Sata Deva Manu Sanang Buddho Bhagavato bhagava Tamahang bhagavantang abhipujayami Tamahang bhagavantang sirasa namami. Suwakato bhagavata dhammo sanditthiko akaliko ehipassiko opanayiko pachatang veditabo inyuhi tamahang dhammang abhipujayami tamahang dhammang sirasa namami. Supatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho ujjupatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho yaya patipano bhagavato sawaka sangho sami chipatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho yatitang chatari purisayugani atta purisa pugala esa bhagavato sawaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjali karaniyo anuttarang punya ketang lokasa tamahang sangang abhipujayami tamahang sangang sirasa namami. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, May all beings be happy. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, freed from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to false views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Oh, no more laughter. Questions? Oh my goodness. Heaps of them. Okay, this is yesterday, so I better do these ones first. Okay, here we go. Dear Ajahn, if possible, please help organize a sitting meditation session in the monastery meditation hall. I've been doing that for all the retreat. You just go over there and sit. Do I need to organize it? You always know how to sit, don't you? You know, it's also just, instead of actually organizing and have everybody sitting over there, it's much better just to get individual. If you walk over there, and I think you're all going, or some of you are going over there tomorrow, you're going to visit the cave. After visiting the cave, you can go into the hall and just cross your legs and sit. It's optional for you. And instead of organizing it and telling you what to do, it's usually much more productive to go there and get a cushion and sit down and just see what happens. Because it's an individual. Some people are very peaceful, some people get excited, some people are not that peaceful. Some people are tired, some people are hungry, some people are sick, some people are energized. So if we organize something, it's almost like putting everybody in the same box. It's nice to have like different people meditating there at different times, and just, if the meditation is good, you carry on and stay there. If it's not so good, you can get outside and do a bit of walking or something. I always think that's much better. Remember that Buddhism, especially this type of Buddhism, is what we call a disorganized religion. So if you don't like organized religion, you come to the right place. Dear Ajahn, I reflected on your simile about revealing the inner part of the 1,000-petal lotus, and have fears that this will expose a part of me that may still need work on, such as selfishness, judgmental, jealousy, etc. That fear may prevent the willingness to open. How do I accept the dark side of me, the inner side of me? Thank you. You don't have to worry. You do not have a dark side. Isn't that nice to know? Okay. So what happens? It's not dark side. The deeper you go into that lotus, which is you, the more beautiful, fantastic, interesting, amazing, gobsmacking, what's the other one? Discombobulating. It becomes. That's one of my favorite English words, as you know, to discombobulate. It just means, wow, wow, wow. And I'm not exaggerating. You're just sitting there, you got your eyes closed, and the lotus starts to open, and you get to that stage of like delightful breath. You never realize this breath, it's such a simple breath, can be just so lovely. And then the joy and the piti sukha, that's the joy and the happiness along with the breath, it starts to really get strong and palpable. It's not a bodily feeling, it's actually with the breath, it's coming actually from your mind. And then what happens, the happiness gets so strong. Now don't be afraid of it. You cannot control it. It's not meant to be controllable. The dual is vanishing. One aspect of anatta, non-self, is manifesting really clearly. So all you do is just enjoy it. Why do you want to control it? It's safe, it's beautiful, it's amazing. So you just allow that happiness to grow. And that is basically the nimitta stage of the beautiful lotus. You go deeper in, and you can look at that lotus for hours. It's gorgeous. And you don't have to just trust me, you do it yourself, and it just happens. And then that happiness gets even stronger, until just the experience is that the happiness takes over. Not the light, but just the joy. And then because it's so powerful, you don't have to focus on anything or concentrate. It just, the happiness, the joy, the bliss just brings you in and holds you. Lovely. And that becomes a first jhana experience. As I mentioned on the first day, just to emphasize how amazing this is, the Buddha called it, one of the things he called it, Sambodhi Sukha, enlightenment happiness. This is the Buddha's description, not mine. The Buddha is kind of emphasizing that this is a taste of enlightenment. This is the big stuff. It's amazing. And so you just get blown away by it. It's gorgeous, and you think that's gorgeous. And then you go to the next stage of the second jhana, which is incredibly still, it can't move. You want to understand what stillness is. Nothing's moving at all. And you got this wonderful confidence, you totally let go. You don't have to do any more letting go. It's amazing in there. And it's so happy, so safe, so gorgeous. And then you go into the next layer of the petals, the third jhana. My goodness, this is the most amazing, wonderful, beautiful, transforming things you've ever experienced in your whole existences. Not just one existence. This is the pinnacle of stuff. And then when you get to that third jhana, then some things disappear there and you go into the fourth jhana. My goodness, this is the purity of mindfulness and contentment. This is big stuff and totally enjoyable. More than you've ever experienced before in your life. And then you go into, that's actually good enough. If you want to go into the, and they call it the arupa states, these are states where things, even the mind starts to fade away. Each one of these is tremendous. And once you realize what's happening when you come out afterwards, wow, that none, is just an example of, there's another one of these meditators, he's a lay person, and very diligent, working so hard, but then at the end of the retreat, getting nowhere. And then she realized, she packed her bags at the end of the retreat, and she realized she had another hour to wait before her taxi would arrive to take her to the airport after the retreat. So she went into the hall, meditated in her own words to kill time. She had nothing else to do. It's a wonderful thing which she did, just killing time. But the main part of that, telling that story, I told it many times, is that when she came out of the hall, I think I was having an orange juice I think it was an orange juice or something, just by one of the tables. And then she was on the floor, not kneeling, and she looked up at me. Oh, Ajahn Brahm. Oh, at last. Oh. She was like swooning at the afterglow of these deep meditations, which were huge. Wouldn't you like that? If I could like snap a finger and let you feel what it's like when you emerge from a first jhana experience, the first ever, would you like to experience that? I mean, you'd be really dumb if you don't. It's gorgeous. And the benefits afterwards are huge as well. You get to understand, look, all of these monks here, all really very clever, very smart, you know, some you may say are handsome. Not me, I'm too old. And all the nuns over there, great women. I said, what are they becoming bhikkhunis for? Are they running away from something? Are they just becoming bhikkhunis because they can't do anything? They could do anything, these bhikkhunis. Why do they do this? The bliss of these enlightenment states or even jhana states are huge. When it happens, you know, you can understand. And also, you know, whatever you experience yourself, it's also so sweet when because of what you teach and you encourage, you set up meditation centers like this, you look after people, you encourage them, you don't get too serious, but keep them light-hearted so their minds can let go. And they actually start experiencing some of these states. You know, in some traditions, they still ask me, is it still possible in today's world you can still get a jhana, you can still get enlightened? And then when you say, with honesty, yes. Some people think it's impossible. When you start experiencing these things, wow, it makes Buddhism, the Dharma, alive. And of course, that's my wish for you. Why not? I'm giving it as much possibility as I can, as much encouragement. And then every now and again someone comes up, and they come up in front here and say, Ajahn Brahm, oh. Why not? So that's why we do this. Okay. Dear Ajahn Brahm, what is a present moment? Even in, breath out, the moment of presence has already become our past. How small can a present moment be? Thank you. It doesn't have to be totally minute, because a minute is 60 seconds. Oh, thank you for groaning. At least you understood it was a silly joke. So a present moment is just don't need to define it, it's just now. And much of the past and future is vanished. As long as most of the past and future is vanished, you can't really be holding on to too much. You can't be too afraid of what's going to happen a fifth of a second from now. And it's too short to have any worry. So as long as it's pretty much in this moment, then it becomes quite natural. You're just seeing what's happening in this moment. It's like a live broadcast. That's what I used to do in TV when I was young. It was actually happening. Of course, you may sort of be picky and say, no, it wasn't just happening. That was a few seconds ago. Even reading this question in front of me. It does take a few minutes for the light from this to reach my eyeball, and from the eyeball actually to make an image in the back, and when it makes an image in the back, for that to go back along my my senses in the eye, and go to my brain, and it all get worked out. So it's never actually, absolutely in this moment, but it's close enough to count as present moment. Does that make sense? Don't just think about it. Let it go. Okay, I am getting vivid dreams during this retreat, which I do not normally have. This is affecting my deep sleep when I feel tired, so I fell asleep during meditation. How do I stop having these vivid dreams so I can have enough sleep, as this affects meditation? Does it affect your meditation, or just believing it affects your meditation, affects the meditation? Sometimes as a monk I don't sleep much, sometimes I sleep a lot. I was going to tell, somebody asked me this morning, what time did you wake up this morning? You know what time I woke up this morning? 1:30. Pretty early. I thought I'd be very tired today. I'm full of energy. It's weird. I kind of trust my body. And sometimes, it comes along and I have like a long sleep, and then I'm really tired. I have a short sleep and I've got energy. Why? Okay, here is the first story I haven't told on this retreat yet, which explains this. In the old days, when anybody ordained as a monk, they had to make their own robes. So they'd make it from white cloth. They have to sew that cloth, cut it and sew it in this particular pattern of monks' robes. And once it was sewn, they had to wash it to get all the oil and grease out of it. But not in a washing machine. You just had to get some water from the well, boil it up. We did have some soap powder, and they'd wash it and dry it. And then they would have to make the dye. The dye was natural dye from jackfruit wood. And so it's a very common tree in that part of Thailand. So when a branch fell or when one of those trees died, they would often offer it as merit to the monasteries. And when you were to make that dye, first of all, you take the machete and then you'd sharpen it up, and then you chop the jackfruit into little chips. So that many times you soon learn not to cut yourself, but you had quite a few little scars and wounds when trying to chop it properly. And once you had all this wood, then we'd have this big metal bowl, like some of you have these in the kitchen. And you put not sand underneath, old bit of water, and then some ashes underneath, because that would actually protect it from wearing out too quickly. And we made a special place to boil it. We had to collect all the wood. It had to be obviously dry wood, maybe cut some up, light it to boil the water, and we put the jackfruit dye in, the chips, boil it and boil it and boil it. And then when the water became like a darkish brown, we filter it out and put it into some pots, do the same again until we had quite a lot of water which had got the dye in it, then concentrate it down. And then once it was quite thick dye, then we had these wooden bowls, big wooden, what do you call them? Wooden bowls. Yeah, the long wooden things. And then we put the robe in it, and we pour the water over it, the dye, and keep punching it and kneading it and kneading it and punching it and kneading it It's really hard work. And then once that had taken that dye, we put it up on the line to dry. We always had to keep moving it, otherwise it would start streaking. And then once it had dried and got some of the dye, we had to do it again. It took many, many times before you got one robe to have enough dye to be dark enough to wear. It was labor intensive. Many times I'd done that, but when you ordained as a monk, you had to do it for yourself, and you had 3 robes you had to dye. You know, the lower robe, this robe, the chi one we usually called it, and the sangati. You had to do all 3 of those. And this particular time, there were 3 young men who were going to ordain, so they decided to do it all together, just themselves. And it would take about 4 or 5 days with no sleep. It was tough, because you couldn't go to sleep, because if you did, what would you do with the dye or with the robe? You know, it had to be done just continuously till you had enough dye and enough dye in the robe. So they did not need to go to any morning chanting or any other duties, just the arms round, and they would eat, and then they go back to the dyeing shed to continue their work. We were allowed to have coffee or tea or whatever you wanted, because it was really hard work. So after 2 days, this group of monks, they hadn't slept for about, 48 or 60 hours or something. And I felt sorry for them. Now, you're a monk, you know, you're friends, you're compassionate towards them. And so after the evening meeting, when it finished about 8 o'clock or 8:30, you know, I went to see them, and they were just so tired and exhausted. And you know, it was against a monastic rule for me to help them. But I thought, oh no, come on, they're so tired. So I said, look, be quiet, don't let anybody know. I look after the dyeing pot tonight. You just come when the bell goes in the morning at 3 o'clock, and you can take over them. You can have a bit of a rest. I was surprised. None of them argued with me. They were off before I could change my mind. So they all went to have a sleep. And I carried on. It was pretty easy to do. I was used to this. But the strange thing was, even though I hadn't slept that day, I had lots of energy. And even when the bell went in the morning, the 3 o'clock bell, now they're really good. They all turned up. And they said, well, we can take over now. Just having a little sleep when you haven't slept for so long is just such a relief. They were very, very thankful. But then they said, you can go and have a sleep now. And I didn't feel like sleeping. So I went to the meeting in the morning, and where we do some meditation, some chanting. And again, that morning, I didn't have any sloth and torpor. I was sitting straight. And also that morning, as I said, what happened when I thought I was enlightened. I just had so much energy. Yo-so! I remember once being told off and said, look, just chant quietly, please. I'm not exaggerating. And then afterwards, you know, no sleepiness at all, and then we got ready for the arms round. And when we went on the arms round, I felt, you know, I did break a rule by helping them. But what I wanted to find out, why when, you know, I hadn't slept all night, I had so much more energy than usual. So I asked the senior monk there, I confessed, I said, look, I'm sorry, but I broke the rule. I stayed up all night to help those monks making their robes. And of course, monks are kind. The senior monk said, oh, it doesn't matter. You know, well done. We always celebrate kindness. But then I said, but I was up all night, didn't have any sleepiness in the morning. I still got lots of energy. What the heck is going on? And he gave this wonderful answer. Because you were selfless, you were helping others. That by itself gives you a huge boost of energy. And that's where I get my energy from. Sometimes, you know, you get tired out, you have to pay it back later on. But you do get a big boost of energy when you're helping somebody else. So I reckon that's where I got my energy from today. Just helping people. So, and it's also when you get that type of energy, you do have vivid dreams. And you don't have to worry affecting your deep sleep. When the body needs to sleep, it will fall asleep. So keep it natural. If you feel asleep during meditation, you're allowed to fall asleep. Honestly. Don't think it's a personal failure. There is no such thing as personal failure on retreats. It's just learning. I still recall over in our centre in Noramara that this lady came in on the Friday night, the first half an hour meditation, and she could see that, she was a bit troubled. And then when we started the meditation, everyone closed their eyes, she lay down. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, she started snoring really loudly. And I opened my eyes too and saw a couple of people sitting next to her try to wake her up and told her, look, it's not allowed to snore. You shouldn't be laying down, pointing your feet at the Buddha. And this poor lady just, was quite shocked. I think, and she did actually sit up, she didn't go out. But then I blamed myself, I should have told them. That lady, it was quite a few years ago, was a victim of domestic abuse. She was terrified in her own house. She'd gone without sleep, I don't know how many days. When she came into a Buddhist temple, she felt safe. And because she felt safe, it was just kind of natural that she would lay down and fall fast asleep straight away. She needed that sleep. But I thanked her afterwards and said, thank you for teaching us a lesson. If ever that happens, please let the person go to sleep. If it's cold, get her a blanket. Let her rest for a little while. It's only a bit of snoring, that's nothing. And the kindness which you are giving by just letting her feel safe, what a beautiful gift that is. So, if you have dreams, you fall asleep later on, that's fine. But of course, if there really is what you think is a problem, I don't think they are. If it really is, in your opinion, a problem, what you do is that, you tell yourself when you go to sleep tonight, in your own words, now I will have no vivid dreams tonight. I will have no vivid dreams tonight. I will have no vivid dreams tonight. That works. It's incredible how it works. If you don't believe me, I did this on my first meditation retreat when I was still a student. I was told, yes, you can bring your alarm clocks, but if you're getting up, say at 5 o'clock, if that's the time you want to get up, set your alarm clock for 5 minutes past 5. It just gives you a sense of safety. But then, when you lay down, tell yourself, I will get up at 5. I will wake up at 5. I will wake up at 5. Do it slower than that, as much mindfulness as you can muster, and then forget it. But I couldn't believe how effective that was. You'd always get up before the alarm clock rang. You're programming your mindfulness. It's like sort of hypnosis, but you're doing it to yourself, and it works. Okay, next one. There are some happy monastics like you. Oh, you don't know what I get up to in my room when I close the doors. No, I don't. But what if someone try monastic life but they become miserable and unhappy? You're allowed to be miserable and unhappy. Because you're allowed to be miserable and unhappy, it's not such a big deal anymore, so you don't get frustrated. Isn't that the case? The first person who got the grumpy license? In the back. Look, you got the first grumpy license, Ronnie. Look at her, she's so happy. That's what happens when you get permission to be grumpy. You can't be grumpy anymore. Weird, but very good psychology. Is it better to become miserable, unhappy monastic, or just become a happy layperson? It's much better to be a happy monastic. You're saying, why do people become unhappy? Over here, as a monk or as a nun, you get looked after as best we possibly can. And sometimes it's like humbling to see how many people look after us and how they try and find out what you need. And of course, you know why they do that, because it's so much fun and joy getting something which a person likes. And a good example of that, I'll tell a simpler story. One of the Sri Lankans, who was a strong supporter of our monastery, for those, remember Lakshmi? And she died a long time ago now, but she was one of our strong supporters. And I remember that one day, just before the meditation in Nolamara Temple, she came and said, I notice you haven't got any socks. Can I offer you some socks? And she's this old lady, and she'd been, serving so much. I said, yes, you can offer me some socks. How often have you seen me wearing socks? Even when I was in South Korea, I went up there and to do some ceremony with Ajahn Brahm, and we had to do this meditation walk up in the mountains in the snow. And it was, I think, minus 16 outside or something. And I just had my Birkenstock sandals, but no socks on. And just doing this walk, I didn't mind. I got really good circulation on my feet. And you know what happened? It was on live TV, and the monk who was walking with me, he only had 3 fingers. As part of his practice, what he did. And many monks do this apparently in the Jogje order, to hold the finger above the candle flame until it all burns off. With no anesthetic. That was actually to prove that they had conquered pain. And he did it twice. And that's a really tough thing to do. But all the cameras were not watching that monk. They were all pointed at my feet. How can these monks walk in the snow with no socks on? And apparently I was told that I had the most famous feet in the whole of South Korea that week. But, so I don't usually wear socks. I don't need to. It's not asceticism, it's just I'm more comfortable. I've got good circulation. But anyhow, she offered me some socks, so I put them on. And I went into the hall wearing socks. And she was actually sitting to my right. I remember this. I'll just put this out of the way. And as she was sitting to my right, this foot was underneath here. As I was giving the talk, sorry, I wasn't as fat in those days. I had my feet covered with the robe. As I was giving the talk, I just tried to be nonchalant, and I started, oh yes, and the Buddha taught about respect. You can't see it, but I'm pushing my foot out. And I was just waiting for her response. And from the corner over there, the corner of my eye. She turned to her friend. He's wearing my sock! He's wearing my sock! Okay, they think that's a bit silly, but that actually made her day. That's actually how we respect people. And that's actually how giving is an important part of joy. Even if I don't need it, I wear it. What happened today? That's right, that somebody knitted a beanie for Venerable Nibbutto. They wanted me to wear it first. And they're wearing it. And you saw that. You were at Nonamara, not at Jhana today for lunch, weren't you? You were, yeah. So I put it on, and then that was photo op. So click, 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 click. And then afterwards I took it off and set it up. Did you actually give it up to?
Yeah, I took it up to Nibbutto.
Oh, excellent, great, yeah.
I was very happy.
Yeah. So why did I wear it first? Just to make those people happy. That's all. That's how you become happy. You don't be miserable. Why be miserable? There's too much joy to be had. Anyway, can ever happen jhana before the nimitta when just after the beautiful breath? Thank you. Yes, can do. So it's just the usual way, you just get the lots of happiness in the mind. But sometimes it becomes like this cascade, it just happens really quickly. And you get into these beautiful states of mind. If it's a jhana, great. But it's nice to actually to get the usual way, systematic way, but after a while it just happens. And you can't say that's bad, just let it happen. Okay. Oh my goodness. I love you and the bhikkhunis and retreat staff. I love Jhana Grove. I love the retreatants. Love with all my heart. Okay, that's okay. I'm a monk. And so when somebody says, I love you, you got to be careful. What was it? Oh, that's right. When I was actually saying, well, when I start these stories, I have to finish them, that I did notice that sometimes that people there are monks, but they leave after a while for one reason or another. And when they do leave, many of them make amazing husbands. Be careful, don't think bad thoughts. I mean, where can you get sort of a guy who's been so well trained, always speaks with mindfulness and kindness, who's trained to do all of the weeding and the garden work and even do building. They can do so much repairs. And they even, what were you doing the last year? Cooking? And how many husbands are really great cooks and just so soft and nice? And so when I said that at Nonamara, people think, oh yeah, you got a point there. So this one lady came up to me afterwards and said, Ajahn Brahm, I was really interested in what you said. Now, I didn't need to read her mind, you could see her body language. I said, look, listen, I love being a monk. It's almost 50 years now, I'm not going to disrobe. And then what she did, she said, yeah, okay, I understand that right now you love being a monk, but look, if you ever reconsider... and she gave me a phone number. It went straight in the bin afterwards. But there is a point there. Where can you get a husband so well trained as when they've been in the monastery? And sometimes people have done that to me. At the wedding, because I'm do the blessing for them. Sometimes a wife comes up afterwards. She's just been married and said, "Thank you for training him for me." They've done that. Anyway, experience of Nibbana means seeing the Dhamma. Yes, but what is the Dhamma? People have all sorts of ideas of what that word Dhamma means. And to understand what it truly means, I've got to pay my respects to Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, because he wrote this article, What Does Dhamma Actually Mean? And I really got it from that one. It's the why, the source, where things come from. Why? You think, act, respond this way or that way. You're searching things backwards, finding out. It's like going into the lotus, finding out what's actually in there, what powers this lotus. And that's the Dhamma. And once you see that, that's usually the experience of like being a stream winner. In other words, you see how this all works and why it works. Truthfully. And from that, there's very few monks actually say this, but I keep saying this. You get this quality called nibbida. And nibbida is like repulsion. You get turned away from things. It's not like, you just want to let go of the world. You just say, what am I doing in that world? It doesn't make sense. It's just like when I was, even just gave up alcohol. Now just going into a pub or a bar, you just don't belong in there. It's not an embarrassment, but just, it's not, you don't want to be in there. Or like, going into a movie theatre or a dance hall or something. It's not where you belong. You get that repulsion from it. And then these things start to disappear. And they vanish. Once, where are other places a monk shouldn't go? Yes, thank you. So once, we had this ceremony being held in the ballroom at Burswood. And Burswood in Perth, what's it mostly known for? A big casino. And so I went there with, our president at that time was Sol Hanna, and it was raining, so we just parked wherever we could and got under cover and tried to find a way to the ballroom in Burswood. And we were totally lost. I've never been in there before. Sol, our president, had never been in there before. And then we walked past this kind of entry, and there was all these lights in there, flashing, and all this noise. It was a casino entrance. And as soon as I saw that, I told Sol, let's get out of here. We don't want to find our way through here. We have many of members of our BSWA temple are in there. I don't want to see them. They don't want to see me. So we walked really fast in the opposite direction. We eventually found out where we were supposed to be. But you just almost ended up in there by mistake. Goodness, that was a nasty experience. But you get turned away from those places. It doesn't make sense to you. I'm the one with the wild dreams, and I dreamed that I had passed away. I dreamed that my loved ones passed away. I dreamed that bad things happened to my loved ones. It's scary, but I had not forgot to apply the Dhamma even in my dream. May I know why it's all the bad, scary stuff? Are they my memes, or am I supposed to learn something from them? Thank you. You can learn something from them, but I think that person did ask during the interviews, they said it was them, one thing which you can do to dreams like that is just develop the attitude of like kind of separating yourself from them. You can observe them, but it's almost at a distance. It's like you're in an aircraft looking through the window and you can see the countries or the sea underneath you. And because you're distant from them, you're not actually inside of them, you can get much more objectivity about them. And because you're objective, you're not sucked into them, it's easy to see what they really are. They're things which are trying to delude you, trying to create a bad emotional response. When you're at a distance from them, you can keep much more cool. They don't ever harm you. Anyway, the Buddha said during samadhi practice to also do another practice. Question: what's it to arouse energy? The Buddha never said that. You can't. Because during samadhi practice, when you enter samadhi, you can't speak. You can't think. That disappears. You are silent. Once you know what silence is, it's so beautiful, so amazing, that you realize its importance, and you realize the deep state of stillness as samadhi means you can't disturb the mind enough to even have a thought. Everything is quiet. Dear Ajahn Brahm, do suttas help to gain wisdom, or can we gain wisdom solely through meditation? You do need both. Once a person had all the instructions, all the maps. When he went into the cave, even though he had the maps, he got lost. He couldn't read the maps. So if you want to find the treasure of the Dhamma, have the map, but also have a flashlight or a lamp, so you can have the wisdom and the jhana, the lamp and the map, and you can find the treasure. That's why it's one of my favorite sayings, and I said this at the last sutta class in Nolamara: Nati jhanang apanyasa panya nati ajayato yam hi jhanang cha panyacha sawe nibbana santike. I say that so often, you all know the meaning, don't you? Do you? Only a couple of people are shaking their heads. It means there is no jhana without wisdom. There is no wisdom without jhana. But in the one who has jhana and wisdom, they're in the presence of nibbana. So jhana and wisdom are the important ones. The next question. What is the secret to living the holy life well for an aspiring? I did this one last time. Sure. The secret to living the holy life well. Look, I can't tell you, otherwise it wouldn't be a secret, would it? One of the helpful parts of living a holy life well is what they call the kalyana mitta, the good friends. What that really means is other monastics who have seen the Dhamma, at least being stream winners, because they inspire you, and they're friendly, they've got a nice quality to them. And the thing which helped me was living with an Ajahn Chah. Whew. And that sort of, sometimes you could watch him, and sometimes you could ask for some advice, sometimes he give you some advice and you didn't even ask for it. It's amazing. So it doesn't mean like strong discipline. It means strong kindness, a good kalyana mitta. Thank you immensely. I want to first express my gratitude because even these few days I've spent here so far has done so much for me, more than months of therapy on meds could ever possibly do. Oh, I'm glad you say that, because you get the bill next time. So that's my character, if I see an opportunity for a joke. You never get any bills here, which is, I was never given a bill from Ajahn Chah. All the best teachers, gave so much, gave their lives. And it was always done, and he said, you don't have to even say thank you. And he taught me, and it's become quite popular now, if I've helped you, you're in debt to me, he would say. And the only way you can pay off that debt is to help somebody else. So as soon as he finished teaching you, you were in debt. Now you've got to take the path to its fruition and then help other people. It's a much more beautiful way of living a life, not just centered on money, but centered on service. What do I say to you when you come in for an interview? That's what I say to everybody. It's almost like a mantra or like a habit now. You come in there and say, how can I be of service? That's what I say. I'm paying off my debts to Ajahn Chah. How can I help? My something. I am a vet student. I have been worried about that this may be a wrong profession, as I would need to kill parasites routinely. There is also the issue of anesthesia. What is my Ajahns' thoughts on these? Please help me handle these issues skillfully, or should I change career path? Thank you, dear Ajahn. As a vet, you help more animals than you hurt. But then what happens? Again, I think I mentioned this earlier. You've got like an animal who's got cancer and is really suffering. Can you anesthetize them? Can you kill them? And in Buddhism, I think no one has the right to kill another. That's parnatipata. But suicide is not condemned. I remember having this argument with one of these Sri Lankan terrors who used to be a teacher of Pali in the universities at Peradeniya. And he said, no, suicide is also wrong. And I got the books out and argued with him, the Pali. So if it is your decision, you're not killing another, it cannot be condemned. Why would you do it anyway? Commit suicide. And I ask this question now, what is suicide? It's intentional doing something, acting in such a way which you'll know will cause your own death. Do you agree with that? If you do, second question is, did the Buddha commit suicide? He knew that pork curry, which he was about to eat, would kill him. He told all the other monks, don't take it, but he took it from Chunda the Smith. Or, if that doesn't convince you, he did say he was renouncing his life faculty. He could have lived forever almost, at least much longer. He decided his job had been done. And I love to ask people questions like that, simply because it challenges you to understand what suicide is. It's not because of you're escaping unpleasantness. It's something totally different. And anyhow, when it comes to animals, you have no right to take their life, but you ask them, you've been suffering for such a long time. You may have a cancer. Do you want the vet to inject you, to anesthetize you? It's basically the animal's choice. And if you're that animal's lover, in a sense it's your pet, and you really know that animal so well, you just hold it in your arms, and you will know whether it's a time for that animal to go. It's not your choice, the animal tells you. And the animals is so much smarter. I told you the story earlier about that lady who had the dog and had bad cancer. The vet said, I've got to anesthetize it, but legally needs the owner's permission. took it aside, held it, asked it, do you want to go? Have you had enough? And she got the very clear message: the dog did not want to be anaesthetized. So she said, no, I'm not going to allow you, and took it home. And the vet really scolded her. These are the doctors, you don't just go once. That lady had been many, many times to that vet. So the vet knew the whole family and the dog. And 6 months later, when she took it back, it was in full remission. No one knows why, but the dog knew that it had a chance and took the chance and was in remission. And that's when the vet said, you Buddhists are so clever and so smart. I would have killed that dog, and now the dog's made a full recovery, all by itself. That happens in life. So that's also the case, not for dogs and cats. Ask them, you get an answer. If that's like your mother, just in the hospital bed, and that's your doctor says, I need your permission to turn off the life support. What do? And if you just say, oh yeah, is it dead yet? If you ask doctors that, they don't really know. They make big mistakes sometimes. So you say, well, you don't say anything yet. Give me a few minutes alone with my mother. And you hold her hand and you just connect with her. That's a mother. Someone you should have got to know so well on so many levels. It's almost like, mind to mind, you feel her. Are you still there? Sometimes you can tell that they're gone. They're not there anymore. If that happens, you say, okay, you turn off the life support. What we say in Buddhism, their stream of consciousness has already left and gone to seek a new birth. So you're not killing anything. They've already gone. The idea is you can actually, if it's someone you're close to, then you can usually know pretty easily. Anyway, next. Dear Ajahn, can you please teach on the mind in the mind, the body in the body, etc.? Thank you. That is just a total 100% misinterpretation of the Pali. Because it's a idiosyncrasy of Pali. We have these verbs, this is grammar, okay, sorry to be technical. We do floor sweeping of floors. We do car maintenance on cars. We do teeth brushing of our teeth. In English, we'd only use it once, we brush our teeth. In Pali, they say you teeth brush your teeth. It's just the idiom. So when it said be mindful of the body in the body, the real translation of that, just be aware of your body. It's just the idiom of that language. It doesn't mean anything else at all. We're adding extra things which are certainly not there. And most monks understand that, or Pali scholars understand that. If a loved one suffers, how can we be emphatic? Empathetic, I think you mean, while at the same time not falling into suffering as well? How do we isolate ourselves from the pain we see? A lot of time when somebody is dying, that there's two types of pain, the two thorns, the emotional thorn and the physical thorn. There's a pain there. And that pain, honestly, it's much less than the emotional distress. And it's that physical pain. If you're seeing that, please, if you can, ignore it a little bit. When I trained to be a school teacher, we actually asked, can we get a GP to come in to teach us some basic first aid? Because when you're teaching in science labs, somebody will put some metal in the, just naughty kids being naughty kids, in the power sockets. Somebody will tip over a bottle of concentrated sulfuric acid. What do you do? And so we asked this old GP to come in, and he gave some amazing advice. He said, look, I know you're all good people and trying to keep high ethics, but if you see somebody having an accident like that, and you see their arm hanging off and blood everywhere, or skin really burnt, please lie to them, he said. Say, oh, that's okay, that's not too bad. Because he said it was the shock which was one of the biggest killers. If you say, oh, that looks terrible, oh, how would you feel? And that sort of shock, he said, was the thing to be avoided. That's what he told us, and I always remember that. Obviously, it's not good to lie, but don't actually worry people. It makes them feel so much worse. So if a loved one suffers, and see what type of suffering it is, whether it is the physical suffering or the emotional suffering. And as for you, if you really love them, you don't have the physical suffering, but your emotional suffering can really sort of be difficult. And that's why that story, I know that there's one of these counselors, psychologists in Kuala Lumpur who really, really liked this story. And it was really relevant to her job. And that was the story of this young man. He was American. He was married to this Australian who was a nurse. And he was so healthy and fit and had this job of whitewater rafting. He knew all these amazing places in the world and get all these rich people to come with him on these guided adventures to do whitewater rafting. With his wife who was the nurse. It's almost like a perfect combination. So they're having a wonderful life, doing what they loved more than anything else, and making enough money to start their lives together, until he got cancer. And so this really fit man got weaker and weaker and weaker. And I would go to counsel them. They lived in East Fremantle. And it got to the point that this really strong man was really now thin and wasted away. The cancer was killing him. And so, the doctors had said, any day now he would go. So I increased the frequency of my visits. And after about 2 or 3 days, he wasn't dead. He was still hanging on there. And, didn't know why. And that's when, even as a monk, you're not a doctor, you have enough insight. And I turned around to Jenny, his wife's name was, Jenny, have you given your husband permission to die? Just those words. And Jenny got it straight away. She would do. That was the fellow she committed her life to. And so I would never forget, I just was sitting in a chair in the bedroom, and she jumped on the bed and put her arms around him so softly, he was really weak, and said to him, I forget his actual name now, I think it was Dave, but could be wrong on that one. Jenny was her name. So Dave, darling, I give you permission to go, to die. Stop trying so hard to keep alive for me. You can understand the psychology. That man, the last thing he wanted to do was cause his wife suffering. He was hanging on with everything he got so he wouldn't die and make her unhappy. And it was something he really couldn't do. The struggle was just, was so much suffering to watch. So she said, it's okay to die. So don't worry about me, I'm well looked after. I don't want to see you suffering anymore. And he died that night. What was keeping him alive was that care not to hurt the people you love the most. They're going to die anyway, it's just extending the pain. So it's wonderful to be able to notice that and act appropriately. You give people permission to die. That's a wonderful gift you can give to your loved ones. Permission to go. How to focus when breath disappears and blanket light. Didn't know what to attend to, didn't let go deeper. Also, what is upadana? Upadana is like a craving, holding on to something. But if it's a blanket light, next time that happens, don't do anything. Just enjoy the journey, see what's coming up next on the screen of your mind. And then, if you don't do anything, just it gets more and more brilliant and more beautiful. I don't know why people keep thinking they have to do something. Sit there and enjoy. Suppose you were on, say, there's actually a new airline now which comes to Perth, the Vietnamese Airlines. Is that correct? Vietnamese Air? Okay, let's go back to Singapore Airlines. I travelled on that one. Suppose you're travelling with Singapore Airlines from Perth back to Singapore, and you look through the window and you see it's going, where's a nice place? Now it's going over like Indonesia. That's, you have to pass over Java on the way to Singapore. And you see, that's Borobudur down there. Suppose then you knock at the pilot's door and said, can you go a bit lower? I've always wanted to see Borobudur. It's not really much of a detour. It's just quite easy. What would happen to you? You can't choose where that flight is going. If you did do that, you'd probably be thrown out of the aircraft. Even when it's at 30,000 feet. Okay, aircraft jokes. Can I tell this one? I see an even better one. Sorry?
You have to now.
Okay, you have to. There's a couple. I'm going to tell the easier one. Okay. So this guy was on the aircraft, and sitting next to him was a parrot. And then he wondered what on earth the parrot was doing on there, but he had a ticket. So they took off, and after they took off, it was in like business class, and then after the plane had actually took off, they took off the fasten the seatbelt sign, the flight attendant came around, can I get you a drink, Mr. Parrot? And the parrot said, yeah, give me a scotch, you pig. And the guy was, he wanted a sort of an orange juice. But, the flight attendant was so stunned, she just went back into the cabin and a couple of minutes later brought out this scotch. And said, what about my orange juice? Before he could even finish the sentence, the parrot had gulped down the scotch and get me another one, you lazy, another bad word. And so, she just went straight away. And then this poor man hadn't got anything to drink. And she came back, with another scotch, and he said, and a third one, you old cow. And the ordinary traveller thought the only way to get any service like this is use that parrot method. So he also swore at the flight attendant and said, yeah, and get me another orange juice. And then a couple of minutes later, the pilot came out and just told them that type of behavior is not allowed on the aircraft. And he picked both of them up, this traveller and the parrot, opened the door and threw both of them out of the plane. It's only a joke, okay. And as they were falling out, from 30,000 feet, the parrot turned around to this guy and said, "You've got a very bad attitude for someone who can't fly." Stupid jokes. Oh my goodness, I get in trouble again. Okay, I did that one. Dear Ajahn, what is the object of kindness when there is letting go? That is kind to yourself to let go. It's kind to the whole world to disengage and have some peace. How do we overcome doubt in meditation everyday life? When you have a strong mind and the mindfulness gets really, really bright and powerful, then whatever you see, you can see everything about it, and the doubt vanishes. And you know that doubt vanishes. Experience feels so different when there's no doubt. That's why when you get these strong nimittas, and when they're really strong, you don't doubt at all. That thing we call doubt is seen and just disappears. What you're seeing is real. And even for previous lives, if they come up, they will only come up in meditation if you've got strong awareness and it's free from the 5 hindrances. The 5th of those hindrances is doubt. And that's kind of weird because you can remember these things and there's no doubt at all that this was actually connected to you in a previous life. Dear Ajahn, you're amazing. Thank you for your teachings and for all the care you put into teaching us. Thank you, Robin, Christina, Deborah? Yes. Deborah, okay, yes. And everyone on this retreat for all the care you have put in. You are all amazing too. We haven't finished yet. Didn't I ever tell you about the sandwich method? Put care in the beginning. We're still on that first layer of sandwich. And then we give the punch, and then the last layer of sandwich on the top. So we've only just given the care part so far. So maybe tomorrow morning. And then the last day we'll do the care. Thank you. Could please talk about Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha and their place in the pathway? Thank you very much. I've already done that a lot. I haven't really done it in detail, but all the time with loving kindness. It becomes kindfulness then. But that's a big talk. I'll kind of leave that there and see if we can get around to it as part of an actual talk. Is it okay to have a nap soon after the meal? The Thai Ajahns always say to walk for 2 to 3 hours after lunch. They say that while they're sleeping. It really depends. If you've had enough sleep and you don't need it, then fine, you can walk. But then you've got to be kind to your body. That's part of kindness, compassion. You find you won't need to sleep that much at night time. So ask your body what it needs and why it needs it. Oh, could you indulge us? I'm not going to finish now. In the ghost story of the lady who died in the tsunami. I think I taught that one, haven't I? Yeah, a couple of days ago. My goodness. So I don't have that much time. But I did tell that one. It's one of the reasons I tell people, if you do see a ghost, especially in here, please don't be afraid. Don't run away, please. ask them for the lottery number first, and then run away. Now, poor Buddhist Fellowship, you've got a new centre over there. You should be cultivating ghosts. They're really good at lottery numbers. I did tell the tsunami ghost, but... Sorry? I did. Okay, you asked for it. Here we go. So, this... Are you sure? How many people think I've told the tsunami ghost story? 2. How many people think I haven't? They win. Okay. It's in the tsunami. What year was that? I don't know. But anyway, there was this lady, Thai lady, a day or 2 after the tsunami, that she had this dream, one of these vivid dreams. And what she dreamt of, she saw this young English girl, maybe about 18 or 19. She was kind of wearing a bikini, but it was all torn, and her skin was all gashed and bruised and bloody. She really looked a mess. And she asked this lady, she said, "I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, please help me." What would you have done? Honestly. She said, "I was on Phi Phi Island when the big wave hit. I was killed. My phone is in the bottom of the ocean right now, and my mother is trying to call me. And my body has been taken into one of these monasteries on Phuket Island, which were used as morgues at that time. Help me." And she said, "Please contact my mother for me. My phone is just at the bottom of the ocean. And please ask her, tell her that your daughter has died. And please ask her not to come to Phuket yet. I ask you, can you arrange the funeral for me, the cremation? And then afterwards my mother can come from London to collect the ashes. Please help me." And then the ghost gave this Thai girl some numbers. And at the end of those, reciting those numbers, the Thai girl woke up. She remembered everything. It was such a clear dream. And then she woke up her husband, sleeping next to him, who was a Westerner, from London. I always think that's probably why this ghost chose her. And she told her husband what had happened in detail. And one of the things the husband said, "That is a legitimate London telephone number. Give it a call." And if you know Thai people, no way. Anything to do with ghosts, they're terrified. So the husband rang up the number. And it got through straight away. It was a London telephone number. And he explained why he was calling. And it was the mother of that girl. All that way. And the mother said, "I kind of knew something happened to my daughter. I knew she was on Phi Phi Island on holiday. And I kind of felt that she'd lost her life. Please go ahead with her request." So the next day they drove to Phuket. They found the body just exactly as she looked like in her dream. All clothes torn and gashed and bruised and bloody. And because it was like an emergency situation, they got permission to cremate the body. Quite quickly. They needed to get rid of the bodies. And after cremating the body and filling in the forms, because they knew her name now, then they called the mother. She got the next available flight to come over from London, from Heathrow to Phuket. And they embraced and handed over the ashes, quite an emotional. But then, after that was all done, nothing to keep this Thai lady and her English husband in Phuket, so they drove back to their home in the town of Krabi, a couple of hours away. And that night, she had another dream. Clear dream. As that dead girl came back to see her. Only this time, it looked like she'd been to a spa. Her hair was perfect. Her skin had like it had been sort of had all these oils put back in them. She looked like healthy and young, no bruises in her at all. She was wearing a white gown. And she said, "Look what you've done for me. I can never thank you enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And also for looking after my mum." And then this ghost, heavenly being you might say now, gave this couple some more numbers. They were not phone numbers. They were lottery numbers. And they won. That couple won a fortune. That's the tsunami ghost story. So for you, if ever you see a ghost, ask it for numbers. And please, you must remember where you got that story from. So 10% has to go to Ajahn Brahm, or over to Albany Monastery, or NBM, or whatever. Okay, that's a nice story. So again, it's 9:01, so I got told off yesterday but anyway, the other aircraft joke, you're going to get that one now. That was when, instead of a parrot sitting next to this guy, this was in economy class on Singapore Airlines. There was this guy was sitting just by the window seat, and sitting next to him was another guy, and on the aisle seat was a dog. Apparently you can have dogs on aircraft now, like they're comfort dogs. But this was not a comfort dog. The guy sitting next to this man, he said, "This is security. This dog is actually trained to sniff out any trouble while we're still in the air. So let's see what's on this aircraft." So they sent this dog in the aisle seat up into the first class passengers. And it was a lovely dog, so that no one complained. But this dog started sniffing one of these gentlemen in a really, really nice suit. And he wagged his tail, the dog wagged his tail and barked once. And when he got back to the seat, the owner said, "That's interesting, because that's a sign that that man has heroin on him. He's smuggling heroin. Let's see what else is on this aircraft." He sent the dog into business class, and there was a finely dressed woman, and the dog sniffed her, barked twice, and wagged its tail twice. And the owner, the policeman who's trained that dog, said, "Wow, that's amazing. That's a sign of cocaine. That lady is smuggling cocaine. We'll arrest her when we get to the destination. Let's see what else there is." In economy class, they sniffed this young backpacker, and the dog came back, barked 3 times, and wagged its tail 3 times. Wow, that's marijuana. that backpacker was smuggling marijuana. We'll arrest him too. Let's also see what else is in this plane. And so he went another part of economy class. He sniffed this traveller, and this time he didn't bark. He came back to his seat and whimpered with his tail between his legs. And he said, "What does that mean?" "That means there's a bomb on board." Did I tell that joke already? I didn't get much of a laugh. I think you're discouraging me for telling the next joke, so I'm not going to do it. So thank you all for listening. I did, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I did do most of the questions. There's only a few left. Thank you all for listening. What else? Any announcements? No. So if you see any parrots on your flight home, don't imitate them. When they get thrown out, they can fly. Whoops. So have a lovely evening. See you tomorrow morning. Yeah. Yeah, I could kind of remember that.